We're right with you. The Morning Majority, 5 to 9 on 630 WMAL.
It is 7:37. You're with the Morning Majority. All people are in their proper places, bringing you news and opinion. And we're going to be joined now by Mr. Lou Dobbs from the Fox Business Network. Lou, it's good to have you on the show.
Great to be with you, Brian.
Let me ask you, the first question I have for you has nothing to do with all these debt discussions, but it's sort of surprising to me. Given the fact that our economy and the future of our government and how it's going to operate and all of that is in turmoil right now, I'm really surprised that the Dow is rocking it. I mean, the Dow is, 12.7 right now? Did I see? What is fueling that?
Well, posting two triple-digit gains this week. The Dow Jones or the S&P 500, they're on track for 2% gains on the week, despite, as you point out, all of the talk about automatic default when it's originating with Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner, or the prospect of a slow solution to all of this. It's rational. It is clear that the bond market and the stock market investors are far more sophisticated than the folks you're talking about there in Washington, D.C. They're just discounting entirely the process.
So you're saying that they assume that some solution will be found and they're not panicking.
Yes, like all of us, investors have watched political theater in this country for some number of years and know that it amounts to very little, and this is very likely to be the case again.
But doesn't that mean the fall would be that much harder if somehow there isn't a deal worked out by August 2nd?
I don't think so. The Treasury, I think, over the course of the next 2 weeks will start ratcheting down its hysteria.
Okay.
And Geithner has stepped way out in front in the political debate, rather than maintaining a lofty and, I think, a more appropriately reserved position on this. Instead, he should be preparing for whatever the exigencies are. We're not going to have an automatic default. They spent a month putting out absolutely false statements that this is going to result in default if the date, August 2nd, is not met. That's just simply untrue. Default is defined as the United States not meeting its debt obligations, and there will be plenty of money to do that. Obviously, there would be severe constraints on other parts of the budget, but a default, that's an absurdity.
And who is the one who gets to decide how to carve that up if we got past August 2nd? Is it Timothy Geithner that goes, okay, here's where the money's going, or is it the president who gets to decide, as we've discussed before? He's the one who said we can't be sure about Social Security.
Right, and it is, of course, the president of the United States. Timothy Geithner is not given 007 privileges on this one, and that's why it's all the more striking when President Obama made the comment he couldn't guarantee those checks are going to go out. In fact, he is the one who would guarantee that those checks go out.
Right. Now, if we lose the AAA bond rating, and let's just say that there isn't a deal that gets done, and I hear what you're saying, that it doesn't necessarily mean that the interest isn't going to get paid, but if we do lose that rating, that is kind of the underpin for how all interest rates are judged and based on. Yeah. So there could be a lot of problems in the market, even if we still pay our interest on the bonds, right?
And this, none of what I'm saying is an encouragement to any elected official in Washington, D.C. to experiment in missing this deadline or in not coming forward with an intelligent, rational plan and doing so before August 2nd. I would love to say today they come up with a plan.
Now, the other thing, though, I had a question on as well. Just because a rating agency says the bond rating is now at AA or whatever, doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's going to panic and sell or that the value goes down as well, right?
Exactly. And it may, in some cases, mean that there is a slight increase in the cost of buying that security. But here's the other part of it. We're talking about markets here. What other market will provide the same security and safety as that of the United States?
Right.
And there just frankly isn't one.
So by the
time we get through with the nonsense, and some of it sounds like it's politically motivated, frankly, coming from Standard & Poor's, and particularly in my judgment from Moody's. these guys are the ones who missed the entire financial crisis. These are guys who were being paid by bond issuers to give them high ratings. I'm not entirely convinced of their standing. Let's put it this way.
I guess my point is, because you understand this better than I do, if we're all of a sudden double A, but people still believe that American debt is still, or bonds are still the best place to put their money, then double A ultimately becomes triple A.
Effectively so, yeah, absolutely.
Let me ask you about this, Lou. I mean, we look now at all the various plans, the Gang of Six, the McConnell plan, the Cut, Cap, and Balance plan, and now talk of a President Obama and John Boehner plan, which is apparently not a plan, or not a deal at least. I'm not sure what it is, but all God's children in this town have got a plan right now. Look, gaze into your Fox Business Network crystal ball and tell me how you think this whole thing is going to be resolved ultimately.
I think that, and this may be somewhat counterintuitive at this point, I think the negotiations that are underway right now, but to which we have no access and there is no transparency, are probably the foundation for what will be an interim deal of some 6 to 8 months at the outside, laying the context for a real plan on taxation, on spending cuts. And by taxation, I'm referring to changes in the tax code itself that will result in lower marginal tax rates and the elimination of tax loopholes and subsidies for business in particular.
Well, you're not alone in this idea that there's going to be some kind of short-term deal while we tackle the harder issues. But I mean, you've seen how things work in Washington. Do you think that we'll have the discipline once we get past the short-term solution to actually buckle down and do something about the hard thing? Or having been given a breather, do we just let it slide into another crisis?
Okay, and as you, I'm extremely skeptical of both the process and the result in Washington usually, but this time I think the stakes have risen to the point that they cannot be ignored. And to use the cliche that I will not use the cliche that I absolutely hate, which is everyone seems to use kick the can down the road. So I'm not going to use that particular cliche.
It's been used here a lot, though. Go ahead.
But I do think that they won't defer because the American people have awakened to and are now focused in on the economic consequences of continued asinine public policy deferrals like that on the debt ceiling, on the debt itself, and the deficits. In the midst of all of this, ignored is the 2012 budget.
Right.
Is not moving forward.
Right.
Yes.
We still have that to work with.
Yeah, there's that little matter.
All right.
A little matter. And with all of this high drama and theater, it's also interesting that both political parties chose to basically bow to one another and let the 2011 budget go by without so much as a hiccup.
Well, Lou Dobbs, always good to have you. Thank you so much for joining us here.
All the best to you guys.
All right. Lou Dobbs, Fox Business Network.